International Research Center dealing with insects and entomology. And of course, he's crossing over from International Research Center for Agroforestry, largely working on ABCD approaches in relation to sustainable livelihoods. And we are privileged to tap into some of the lived experiences that he has had working with communities in western part of Kenya and elsewhere. And so Langat will introduce himself, of course, beyond that, and then lead in the discussion. When we are finished, then we will interact with Langat and amongst ourselves as get a feel of the topic and where we are. We can use the chat to, again, raise any comments and or any questions that we might have. And so thank you so much. And Langat, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you, Daniel, for this opportunity to present and also interact with my colleagues who are in development space, and also to get a feel of what we do or what I've been able to focus on for quite some number of years. And I'm privileged to be presented today and just to touch on what ABCD does in our communities. So my today presentation, let me welcome you all so that we have a feel of what ABCD is able to do in our sustainable livelihoods, especially as we work with our communities. So my title of presentation is Harnessing the Power of Self-Identity under the ABCD approach for sustainable livelihoods. I'm Langat Kipkorir. I'm a research officer working with the International Center of Insect Physiology and Ecology. So ICIPE is doing a lot of action research, and that is meant to reach or be disseminated to various communities to make sure that they are able to nutritionally improve income and also make sure that they take care of the environment. So we develop technologies that is meant to bring a lot of shift in how our smallholder farmers, even large-scale farmers, will be able to adopt and be able to make a great shift in our communities. Previously, I worked with C4 ICRAP, and I was a field research attendant. And mostly, we did some work with the various communities using ABCD approach. So let me dive into what my presentation is for today, and majorly understanding the self-identity. So when I say self-identity, I mean that we need to understand and the perception of various individuals and communities about themselves, and including their values and including their beliefs and the roles that they have in carrying their own development. So if you are able to understand the values of that community, the individual that you are dealing with, the belief system of that community, and your belief system as an individual, the roles that you play also, we need to set the roles that each and every person will play as we instill most of the development aspects in our community, so that if we have to make things to be sustainable, everybody should take part in the ownership of every process that we do. So some of the factors that influence the self-identity. When I say self-identity, it means you are able to, how do you perceive yourself? How do you know yourself? It answers the question, do you know yourself? So having the self-identity means you are able to understand your social background, you understand your culture, you understand the economic situation that you are in, and the environmental factors. And this also contributes to our well-being in terms of how others perceive you and how you perceive yourself. Because if you perceive yourself, it means that you are able to, if you understand yourself better, it means therefore that you understand even the environment, despite the challenges, despite the problems that's within your community. But if you understand yourself, it means therefore you can be able to know these are the things that I can be able to do at my own level, considering some of the things that we do is within your reach. Now, what is the significance of this in our livelihood? Self-identity influences the career choices. It influences the entrepreneurial endeavors. It influences also even our community engagement, and make sure that this impacts directly to our livelihoods. Because if you are able to make for the people that are pursuing their careers, the people who are in business, the people who are in when I say business, it's all round. You can be in agriculture, you can be doing some household stuff, and etc. And even community engagement. How you make sure that you interact with your people that is within your surrounding, and you follow them, and you make sure that even you understand their belief system. You also value their cultures, so that we don't enter into the communities and then try to bring and say, you know, with your cultures, you people, you normally, if it's a community where they do more fishing, then you say, you people, you like fishing, but you know, for them, they know the importance of having that. But if you have to shift their mindset, you need to dig so much into their identity. You need to learn about their identity. And how can we do that? ABCD as an approach is what I find it so dear to me, because I think for the years that I've been able to work with communities, I've used ABCD. And what is ABCD? ABCD is an asset-based approach that focuses on identifying and mobilizing the strength and assets within the community. And then ABCD also emphasizes on the strength and assets present within the community, rather than you focus on the deficits and needs. So with ABCD, it has the principles. And for me, I think I've delved into three of the ABCD principles. One of them is that nobody asks nothing. Everybody has something to contribute to the table. So if you consider the cultures of people, if you consider the belief systems of the people, if you consider the role each and every person has to contribute in the communities, then you'll follow that as an asset. That means the moment you understand that person, the moment you understand you as a facilitator on your component, and you understand what is happening in that community, that ABCD is making a shift in terms of realizing that nobody has something to contribute to the table. And then also in terms of starting with what you have. When you say start with what you have principle, it means therefore that I have something to contribute. Even within my culture, there are things that I can be able to do that can instill some component into my livelihood space. Or I can also take some of the things that is within my culture and our belief system that also can influence how other people are able to do. And the most important thing here is to make sure that how sustainable is our livelihood. And I know it's something that is so broad. And when we mentioned about the livelihood, something that's so broad, but how do we shift the mindset? Shifting the mindset means that I need to identify what are some of the things. I identify myself and what are some of the assets that are within my reach. So the assets that are within my reach, it goes together in terms of, do you understand the principles? Do you understand even the three basic principles, like start with what you are? Because if everybody could start from where you are, what you have, I don't think that we could be able to have a lot of an ease in making a shift in our community development space. So attempting to know and understand the identity of that community in terms of culture, in terms of the belief system, in terms of the roles that each and everyone can contribute to the development space, then that is going to be very important. So these principles include the components of community participation, the asset mapping. So in terms of the asset maps, when you say in ABCD, what we normally consider so much is the assets. Assets in terms of the skills, assets in terms of the talents, assets in terms of we have the physical, like the rivers, the roads, and we have also the hills. And then when it comes to the institutions and associations, and when you say institutions and associations, they play a key role. Just like, for instance, us as a International Center for Insect Physiology, there are things that we want to make sure that farmers understand. So we as a research institution, we make sure that these technologies that are being developed needs to be disseminated to the farmers. So if the farmers are not aware of some of the things that we do as ICIPE, that means they are not aware of our role as an institution. So if they are aware, and these institutions, sometimes they are very close to them, but you realize that they don't associate with them because they don't find it so valuable. So part of the identity is even knowing what are some of the institutions that are within your reach. What are some of the associations? Associations is like even the social groups that we have within the reach, because these associations can be CPOs, can be the other social groups, but they do different things that I can learn from them. So if I can value, in terms of my self-identity, I need to value the associations. I need to value other groups. I need to value the institutions that are surrounding me, and I see in terms of what can they contribute for my well-being. Now, if I value that and I be able to reach on what they are able to offer, it means therefore I can be able to do more of around the development space. Now, building the relationship is a component here that I'm taking as ABCD. I know it should be asset-based, but to me, I'm taking in terms of B, in terms of relationship. You build the relationship. It is very vital to build the relationship, because sometimes you step into the community space and you want to implement a project, not understanding how you need first to step back and you start to build. How you do the entry process is what matters a lot. So you build that relation by making sure that, one, you understand what is this community in terms of building that network. What are some of the people even that work within that community? What are some of the other institutions that work within that community? Then you tend to ask them, you engage them, you make sure that you have them to give a space on this development agenda. You listen from them also what they are able to do. So you listen as you do the entry. You listen some of the organizations that work within the community. What do you normally do? So those are the things that you need to have that background as you do the. That means that is the significance of building that social network in assessing these resources that they have, the information, what are some of the livelihoods, the income generating activities that they normally do. And then how you establish these connections also within the community means that you encourage active engagement. You connect with them more often than only just when you want to meet them. You only now engage with them only when you want to meet them. But there should be that active engagement if you are within that community setup. Then also there's a component of collaborative approaches for these community development under the building of the relationship. Now, me as if I'm implementing a project within a given community as a staff from International Center for Research and all those components, I make sure that first, even the people who are in that community, we are in the stakeholders in that sector. I make sure that also we have that connection, because somebody will contribute something that builds you. So how we've been able to make sure that we build that identity as ICIPE, as ICRAF, or any other organization. We make sure that these organizations have a mutual relation. They have something that they, at least, somebody can contribute, or that institution can contribute for the betterment of that community, so that we don't have that clash in terms of, so that we have a commonality within our community to make the communities better. Now, another component is the C, which we say the community. The community, we must understand their capacities, identifying their aspirations. So you encourage the goal setting within the communities and make sure that their aspirations are really identified. So goal setting means what is the purpose? Now it goes to the identity. Each and every community or an individual should be able to see what is our focus. Where am I heading to? So at individual level, once you do the assessments, because if each and every person will be able to do you assess the assets that you have, You assess the institutions that are within your reach. There is the natural resources that are within your reach. Then also sometimes you analyze your economic value in terms of what are some of the things that you do that gives you the income generation. Does it make sense to you in terms of how much do you earn? How much is it going out? And then what is the net? The net means that you are able to do even the reinvestment, and you'll be able even to give and donate to other people within the community. You cannot be able to give out if you cannot be able even to look for something that you can generate, where you can generate the amount. So aligning the aspirations with sustainable development livelihood practice means that you assist an individual in aligning their aspirations with sustainable livelihoods. How do you do that? You make sure that within the ABCD, once this person is able to identify the assets he or she has, you now go and make what you call the community action plan, or even an individual action plan. An individual action plan is having various components. What is the future change that this person is aspiring to see in his or within the community? It can be an individual, it can be within the community. Now, they can be able now to see how is my future change achieved with the assets that I have. That means I can be able to, at that time, I see what is my role in making sure that I achieve the future change. If it is about the environmental concern, if it's about the income concern, if it's about the netting, something that is required within, or even participating in an activity within a community, like maybe road construction. What is my role within the road construction? What about even the drilling of or the construction of the bridge? Construction of the bridge that can assist other people. That shifting the mindset to be able to know that I have something, that a role that I need to play at the individual level and as a community, that I don't need even external support. We can be able to use our assets alone to make sure that this thing is the future change that you want to see is really achieved without any much external support. Unless if you need any external support, you know how strategically you can collaborate with other people or other organizations that is within the reach to make sure that you achieve. The most important thing is to achieve with the local resources that we have within our reach. And how does this all these components harness the self-identity? How does the identifying the strengths and assets and conducting the asset mapping exercise be able to really harness the self-identity and make sure that we have a sustainable livelihood? It means, therefore, us as the external partners, we should not so much delve into what is happening within that community, but you analyze from you step back, and then you give a bigger role to the people who are within that community, so that they don't have that dependent syndrome within them. Because I think from the various cases that I've been able to work with some communities in doing different things, like for instance, land restoration, the component of adoption of the new technologies. And we have realized that with ABCD, I know it needs facts and data so that you can pack that information. But from the point of the facilitation perspective, I can say, whenever a community or an individual has been able to shift in terms of identifying he or herself, it is easy to work with that person compared to, because that person already knows that this is something that I need to do for me to achieve this. So if you can be able to use the small assets that you have to achieve that, you can, the things that you are able to see, and now you have that due to collaborations, you can be able to see, even take learning from other people. It means, therefore, once you identify yourself, once you are able to know who are you and what role do you play, what even understanding within my cultures, though there are some things that it changes with time, but culture still roots in most of the communities. And once you understand that, each and every person understand that, it is easy to work within those communities. Like for instance, I've said also sometimes we go into the communities, like for instance, if I within our country, if I'm from, let's say, from Rift Valley, and I go to Western Kenya, and I work in that community, and then I see how they are able to do some of the things. then you don't have to say, oh, you people, you do this. I need to embrace them. I need to first listen to what the conversation is. And then also within my culture, I have some other things that I know they are not doing. But if it makes sense to me to share the information that I have, or if they are able to open up and share the information that they have, now that is what you call the connectivity. I'm able now to build that relation and be able to understand how they are able to do. So as external people who are working in these communities, we need to harness their self-identity. Even you as a facilitator or an external person, you need to identify yourself as you step into those communities and then understand you have your cultures. And then you don't have to let your culture to derail the other people's cultures. But with some time, things will have to shift once each and every person will be able to identify his or her own self. And then, sorry, I think I have, so what are some of the tools? These tools should be, and techniques, it should be participatory. We have activities that needs to be it should be participatory. So APCD is one of the participatory approach because it engages the community members in decision-making process and make sure that these people in any development space, that on everything that they want to put focus on, they will make sure that this one is the people are able to make decision and they are part of the decision makers. Because if you don't engage them in this development, they do not own it. Sometimes we've had opportunities where you bring a given technology to the farmers, but because they think that that one is not meant for us, it is meant for that institution. So how do they be able to own? Is through the self-identity. In terms of you understand yourself. This is something that I need to embrace because it is going to assist me in the long run. Then we are able to sustain in terms of the income generation, the nutrition component. They are able to, even environmental concern, they are able to own it and make sure that it is done not only within the project cycle, but today and forever. Or even it can take more time and even to reach other generations. So through the APCD tools, the leaky packet assists so much in terms of assessing the economic situation of the family, like because all these things revolves around the households. How many households are able to do this and this? So I think as we pick even the data, we normally focus on the households. So if we have to be able to, if each and every family will be able to assess all these assets and realize that all the assets that they have contributes in a way to their sustainable livelihoods, then they be able to embrace and take that for long. Despite that, we have the impacts and the benefits of doing this in terms of economic empowerment, increase in income generation, and social cohesion and inclusion. And then it strengthens the community bonds and reduce the exclusion, especially in terms of the gender. And then environmental sustainability and the promotion of sustainable practices rooted in our community identity and values. And then some of the things that we are being able to check on this as I do this presentation, a couple of the key points is one, the self-identity, which refers to individual perception of themselves within their communities and environment, influencing their motivation, behavior, and connections. It plays a crucial role in shaping attitudes towards sustainable livelihood practices. And then for the APCD approach, this is an asset-based community development. It focuses on the strengths. It's a strength-based approach where it emphasizes on identifying and leveraging on local assets and resources within the community to promote sustainable development. And then what are these sustainable, what do you mean by sustainable livelihoods? It integrates environmental, social, economic dimension to support resilient and inclusive communities, which involves recognizing and harnessing self-identity to promote ownership, empowerment, and innovation. And so my call to action is that we encourage stakeholders to prioritize identity-based approaches in community development efforts. Two is that also call to action that we involve communities in all stages of sustainable initiatives, from planning to implementation and evaluation, to make sure that their voice is heard. Let them also voice something, and we need to listen to what they are saying, so that this one will be able to address their needs based on the assets that is within that community. There's also the component of inclusivity and equity, ensure that the marginalized groups, including the women, youth, indigenous communities, are included and empowered in sustainable agricultural initiatives to promote social equity and inclusivity. Now, the future direction, it means therefore we need to explore the potential avenues for further research and innovation in harnessing self-identity for a sustainable development. And then I'll welcome the question and answer from you listeners. And I can say thank you for listening. And together we can be able to continue to empower communities to protect the environment and create a bigger future.
Thank you so much, Langat Kipkorir, for your quite precise and well thought out presentation. Of course, calling us to action and challenging us to understand who we are. Because my take is that if we understand who we are, what we have, and the spaces that we have in terms of the community, the connections, there is the assets, and align ourselves appropriately, then we can always get to a point where we empower those we work with, both within our communities and also beyond our communities, and work to transform our communities and also get down to the path of sustainable development for everybody. But the call for self-realization becomes important, because that's also realizing that we are the most important resource in the whole process of community development and ultimately sustainable development. So colleagues, can we give a round of applause to Langat for wonderful presentation? And then I will open the floor for any interventions, any comments, or any clarification that might be useful, or even additions. In the starting, Langat has indicated ABCD is participatory, and of course, in that spirit, then of course, this webinar will not be complete if we do not participate. And as we do that, allow me to recognize the presence of my colleagues from IACD board. We have Janine Ward, IACD's trustee, Sub-Saharan Africa, joining us from KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. And we have Dr. Ritu Nada, IACD trustee for East Asia, joining us from India. We are so glad to have you on board and supporting us. And the floor is open. I might want to give the first opportunity to the passionate Janine, has been our leader in this and has presented 2 master classes on ABCD in this series of webinars. Thank you. Welcome, Janine.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Langat. It's lovely to hear someone else's passion about my passion. I would just love to hear from you if you could give us any sort of stories from the ground of where you've seen this self-identity coming into being using the ABCD principles. I'd love to just hear any kind of case study or practical example of the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Janine, for asking that. And allow me to respond and say that as I worked with ICRAF before, I was able to work with various different communities and be able to meet different people. And most of the time is that I worked with women, and sometimes you realize that they share stories in a way that even you wonder how. So I have cases like and is a drunkard, and then the wife is just a member of the group, because we normally work with the social groups. Now, when you train ABCD to let's say a wife to somebody, and then after the end of the training, you realize that the same person will also be able to train the other person. And then as a spouse, we'll say, I want to also to listen. What is this thing that I'm seeing? There's some changes within my household. I want to see what is happening within, what did you train them? Let me listen to what you train them. So with time, you say, okay, fine, this is what we did. We did this and this and this. And then you realize that within some time, you get also some responses from the spouse that maybe a wife was a member of the group, and then be able to train the husband. And then you'll be able to see, I say, nowadays he's even more open to share with me even how much he has in his account or how much he's able to earn. And then also we can be able to plan together what is happening within our household. Like it makes somebody to know now what is my role. What is why do I have to be out of my my family? So, and then also sometimes you realize we've been able to change see some behavior changes in terms of, you see somebody who was really drunkard, and then be able to assess and say, I think I've been spending a lot of money in this alcohol, then I need to stop this and be able to do something else that will give me money within my household. So there's that component of, as long as somebody have been able to take, or you find somebody, and another example, you find somebody within the community was able, maybe he was planning on two income generating activities, but with time realize that I have all these assets within my reach, then I should be making more money, because if I have this skill that I'm not using, it makes sense to me if I can utilize so that I get something at the end of the day. So there's that component of realizing who you are and what do you have, what can you offer that can give you something at the end of the day, in terms of maybe in terms of income, and in terms of what also with your skills, how can you contribute to the community? And then the community will say, fine, you see, all this time we've been able to see, and like we have a let's say a pharmacist, or we have a, let's say somebody who is skillful in terms of art, maybe making maths, then you'll be able to solve an issue that is within the community. So identifying yourself means a lot in terms of understanding what can you offer, and what can you be able to do with the things that you already have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Langat. And another intervention?
Yeah, Daniel, this is Paul.
Yes, Paul. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, Langat, that's a nice presentation. I've learned a lot, and thank you for that, because I'm very interested in building the relationship aspect. And you bear with me that before you can work with people, you need to build that relationship. And in that relationship building, trust is one of the key things we need to build, because if the people cannot trust you, working with them is very going to be difficult. And you also mentioned that they must take part, as that is, participation is very key. And I just want to add that participation must also come along with their engagement. They are two different things, and we must make sure that as they participate, they are assured that their contribution or their participation is going to influence the result, which is the engagement aspect of it. But one thing I also want to ask you is, what do you think may be one of the key things for us to know, or that will influence our perceptions as we enter the communities and work with them? If you can highlight some of the things that you feel can influence our perceptions that result in how we identify ourselves, I'll be glad if you can highlight on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for asking that. I think the most important thing here is how you first make. I think the when you enter into communities, you make sure that you speak what's your role in that community, so that you don't overpromise. Because if you want also to break that tie with the community as an external person, yeah, what is very important here is that if you have to engage with them, or whatever they are also going to do, they are able. You must be able to be very, very genuine with what you are offering to the community. For instance, if it's about training alone, or if it's about a given intervention, make sure that your community entry is properly done. Now, within that community, the person that you are engaging with, that trust that you mentioned about trust, how you are also able to talk with these people or the communities that you are working with. That first day, that first impression matters a lot. That first day that you will be able to engage with these people, either on phone, it matters a lot. So because if even sometimes, let me say, sometimes even with the local administration, if I can use that, sometimes you want to introduce yourself, like we have so and so, and we are doing this within the community. The first, how you introduce yourself matters a lot. Even when by the time you are meeting that person, basically, is what is very important. So the first impression matters a lot, and the words that you use, it should be very, very you need to be very careful in how you are handling yourself. So that now will shift how that person will be able even to open yourself, or open his or herself, to make sure that that thing will be successful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Langat. There's a question from Francis Gugi on the chat. And his question is, how does the ABCD approach address power dynamics within communities, particularly those based on gender, age, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status? And are certain groups marginalized or excluded from decision-making processes? And if so, how can this be addressed to ensure inclusivity? Maybe you can take that one, and then I will go to the other.
Okay, thank you, Francis, for asking about the power dynamics within the communities. There's some. Let me mention something about the ABCD. What I've liked with the ABCD is that, one, as you start to engage, you can be able to see that component of the power dynamic, either in terms of the leadership within the social groups, or within the leadership of the local administration, and then now the component of the gender and age is also coming handy. So with the time, the more you engage with them, the more also you build on, they understand the role, because there's component, you mentioned all various things, like also the talk of the animation. There's various tools that can be able to assist this in terms of, like, the component of the power dynamics. Somebody will be able to know each and every person has something to contribute at the end of the day. So understanding that, that person will be able to know this person is very important to me, and I should also treat with a lot of care. So the power dynamics, yes, is there, but with time, each and every person will be able to understand the role. Each and every individual is contributing to the overall development within that community. Now, in terms of the gender, I've realized that sometimes, as you start trainings or engaging with this community, let me say you have brought a community together, as you bring the community together, you realize that at some point, the communities, the women tend to sit somewhere else, and then men sit somewhere else. But as time goes, you see there's some change in the sitting arrangement. There's some component of coming together, because they appreciate and say, oh, fine. In terms of what each and every person is able to contribute, it changes that perception. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I've been able now to transit to another place.
Okay, so thanks, Korea, and I believe you've responded to both of Boogie's comments, because about the whole issue of inclusiveness and also being responsive to the cultural dynamics. Yeah, Ruth from Zambia, go ahead.
Yes, good morning. Sorry, yes. So I wanted to just appreciate the presentation. I think it's a great presentation. I like the fact that you have simplified the approach to community engagement, I must say, because it's easy to remember as we are engaging the community or you want to work with the community. I think it's easy to say A, B, C, D, and then you look at, have I tackled the A? Have I tackled the C? Have I tackled the B? So I really appreciate that. And I would also ask if you can be able to share with us your presentation so that we can really go through it and really see each and every stage what it involves. I think my question is that this approach, is it something that can be replicated? Is it an approach that you are selling out to, I mean, to the people out there, to us, so that we can also use it? Or is it something that you are using it for yourself, for your organization? I thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. I think that's a question Langat and also Janine can respond to with regard to the whole approach of ABCD as one of the tools for community development.
So let me request Janine to respond to that.
Thanks, Langat. Yeah, I mean, ABCD is a global approach that's being used across the world. It was the whole concept of ABCD, the name of it came about in America, where two men were working in neighborhood work in Chicago. But I believe that ABCD is actually like part of our human DNA. It's the way that we all operate as people. We all want better for ourselves. We all want to do better for our families. And we all, if I think of stories of my grandparents, making do with what they had. It's, as Langat says, you start where you are, you use what you have, and you do what you can. And I think that is a basic human, that's how we function as human beings. The ABCD came in as the name that was very trendy in the mid-80s. But basically, it's, to me, it's just a very positive and strengths-based approach that I've found in the 30 years I've worked in this field. It works. People value being valued. People appreciate when you don't come into a place and say, I've got all the answers, I know what you need, you're poor, you have nothing, I've got the solutions, that kind of welfare handout mentality. But if you go in and say to people, you are surviving, how are you managing that? Look at what you have, look at what you've managed to do so far, and let's build on that. And that, to me, is the beauty of the ABCD, and that's why it works everywhere across the world. So I would say it's an approach that is open to anybody to use. There's lots of different. It's interesting to see how Langat has put the ABCD into his presentation, and I know across the globe people have slightly different ways of talking about ABCD, but the basic principles are there. Nobody has nothing. You use what you have. You start where you are, and so on. So I think you can find information about that. And our other colleagues, Dee and Michelle in Australia, are very strong ABCD advocates as well. So I think there is information available. And yeah, use it if you find it useful. I think it's a fantastic approach. I don't know if you want to add anything, Langat.
Okay, thanks, Janine.
That's nice, Janine, for sharing that. ABCDs you can use in every context and it fits everywhere. So, and the materials are available. We can connect and I can share the materials that they already have, what we use, and some other innovations that we've come up with using the ABCD tools. that are very powerful and can be used in our communities. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Langat. And just in addition, ABCD is just a tool. And as community development practitioners, then we need to embrace all the tools that will make our work a lot more impactful in the communities that we work with. And it's one of the tools that is available within the participatory community development framework. And it's, of course, DNA, as Janice is indicating, is the fact that it puts the locus of control in the hands of the individual actors in community development, so that then we can be able to exercise, as Langat puts it, self-identity, the whole issue of voice and agency. And if we can translate the same in our interactions also with the communities that we work with and in all the organizations that we are connected with, then we become a lot more impactful, and we can multiply the impact of everybody voicing out that which is important. And we go again to the whole genesis of community development is again the whole issue of taking charge of the process of transforming that which is important, that which we value in our communities, and making it much better from our perspective before the perspective of outsiders come in and illuminate that which maybe we have missed, but starting with what we have. And then anybody else can join us on the journey of community development. Any further comments, interactions? Ruth, this presentation is being recorded, as you indicated right from the start, and so when it's done, it's going to be available on the IACD website for further interaction with. And with the permission of Langat, possibly we can also share the slides to those who've registered, and we have their email addresses. Thank you very much.
Yes, you can share the presentation.
Okay, thanks so much, Langat, for being so gracious. So any final observations, comments? So then I can just make some comments on the way forward. And I have two, I think, interesting announcements to make. The next edition is going to be the 36th edition. We have already shared out information on the IACD social media platforms. And we are looking at the emerging concepts and phenomenon of artificial intelligence and how that sits in with community development. And that's what we're going to be discussing in our next edition in April. And so you're welcome, so that you can see how we interface now with the emerging information and communications technologies, and most important, artificial intelligence, so that then we can see how, again, we can realign what we do with also what is happening in the information communications technologies space. Jessica shared the link to register if you wish to receive the slides from Langat. There's the link for registration, so that then you can be able to, we can be able to have your email address. The second one, I don't have permission to announce, but I can, being associated, being part of what is happening in our region. You remember sometime back we said that we were calling for countries to host events, conferences, webinars, and we were challenging who was going to have a conference or a webinar or an event in this gap here when you don't have the World Community Development Conference. And our colleagues in Nigeria have taken the lead, and they are preparing. They have not yet communicated all the details, but they are preparing a conference, a two-day conference in June 2024, to be in University of Benin, and focusing on a topic towards interrogating community engagement, development governance, and accountability in Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa. And so let's be on the lookout for more details on this. And this is our opportunity to, again, to connect within the region. And this is being spearheaded by our colleagues, IACD colleagues in Nigeria, being led by the presenter of 2 months ago, Professor Ogato, who made the webinar presentation, is coordinating this. And of course, he's going to give us more details on how we can then be able to take part in this. And again, we have other colleagues in other countries who are already, again, putting together their networks, and we encourage them again to keep working, and then they invite us into the that they're organizing. We've already active networks in Ghana, in Uganda, in Mauritius, Tanzania. They have also their network, and the Kenya network. Janine is putting together the South African network, which has been there for quite some time, but I think it's being re-energized. If you go to the online, you find there's a lot of references to what has been happening within the South African community development space. And so I encourage all of us from our different countries to see how we can organize locally, because from what Langat is saying, we need to start local, then now we can thrive. And then when we connect, then we become a big movement in this region. And so without further comments, it's thanks so much for making time for this 35th edition. And we look forward to your participation in the 36th edition, which will be on the second Wednesday of April at 11 a.m. Kenyan time. Thank you so much, and stay blessed.